Exxon Valdez tanker right there.
That's back here, sorry. It does help if the idiot pushes the right button.
Yesterday, we started with a problem. Exxon Valdez tanker right there. That's a problem because it's not floating. We've now lost 11 million gallons of oil, right? We identified the fact that Prince William Sound is huge, right? There's 5,000 miles of shoreline. That's almost an unbelievably large space in order to clean up and protect all at the same time. Today, we're going to look at those individual sites, and you're going to start deciding which site do we protect. We don't know exactly what the #1 priority is, but I'm going to challenge you. You have to switch from your personal lens to your stakeholder lens today.
In this curriculum of connections lesson, students are asked to consider how political, economic, environmental, community, and corporate influences shape the concept of perspective. This will allow them to see the connection that exists between social influences and how scientific problems are resolved in a society. As a result, students should come to understand that science does not operate in a vacuum, but rather is an integral part of the social system and is dependent on the other parts of the social system as well. She has also structured the lesson in a format that supports her students in seeing how science is used in practice. Ultimately, she plans to close the lesson around identity issues, giving her students an opportunity to look at whether they might choose science or one of the other disciplines as a career.
Now, this is not a research assignment. I'm not testing your researchable skills. What I'm testing is your ability to look at the data and make a decision. And I got to tell you, just like everything else we've done in this class, there's probably not one answer. And there probably isn't even a right answer. If we're lucky, we'll get arguments. You're probably going to run into some roadblocks. That's a good thing. If you happen to learn a whole lot about Prince William Sound, the Exxon Valdez, great. But here's what you need to get. How does your personal lens shape your interpretation of the data? #2, how does your stakeholder lens affect how you interpret the data and make a decision?
In the connections parallel, relationships, patterns, and ideas are emphasized over facts. As Julie states, this is not a research unit, but an effort to see an historic event through a variety of lenses or perspective.
Salmon are very vulnerable groups.
Each group is challenged to evaluate priorities of how to clean up the Exxon Valdez spill. Science and data are tools for understanding concepts, ethics, and decision-making, rather than gathering information.
Kids are working on prioritizing the different habitat geographic locations in the Sound by looking at the data through the lens of the stakeholders. So one group of kids has this stakeholder lens of a salmon fisherman. And through the data that says, geez, these are things that are important to this particular person, what decision should I make? Which then generates the science questions. How does oil affect salmon? What's a fish hatchery and how does oil affect that area? Who's dependent on the salmon, both in terms of people and ecosystem contributions? And as a result of that data, they've constructed that graphic organizer that allows them to see, essentially, here's my location across these different criteria, whether that be animals or shore or cultural characteristics or human resources. What's the level of sensitivity of this area? And as a result of that, they'll have a cost-benefit matrix. They are then responsible for picking which site they're going to protect. At the end of that, when we share out, we see, this stakeholder obviously picked the salmon hatchery, and this stakeholder obviously picked the cultural site. What's the connection? Why are people picking that as opposed to picking something that doesn't match their stakeholder lens? Each location in Prince William Sound has a story. And your entire job in your group is to find the story. And then figure out how to tell the story to somebody else. This is called persuasive writing. Go to language arts for a second. If I give you the character list and the plot list and the setting details, do you have a story? No. You have the parts of the story. How do you...
At Sky Vista, the librarian and Julie's colleagues in the science department worked together to develop each unit. Rather than have her students go to the internet and reference books to dig for information, she provided them with relevant data stations to construct their arguments. The librarian helped to develop the data for each station and the graphic organizer Julie used for this lesson.
And so you asked me for a weather forecast. You thought that was important. I put that together for you. I've given you some information, computer modeling that scientists have put together that will predict where the oil spill is going to go over time. I've given you information on shorelines. I was surprised when I went and did my research on this. I thought a shore is a shore is a shore is a shore. Turns out they're all very different. I'll show you some pictures of it.
Now that the students understand all the resources they can access, they are challenged to decide which ones are relevant to their lands.
On the front of your paper is a task card. Tells you what your job is. When you are done, you're going to have a written paragraph that says, we think as the tourism board for the state of Alaska that site number blah, 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 blah is the most important to say because of bing, 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 bing.
No, we're the tourism board, and we're responsible for putting together the advertising magazine promoting Williamstown as an ideal tourist destination. Okay.
Where are you in the big picture of the whole sound? Where are you in the whole sound?
What?
Hold on a second.
We're around the middle.
Okay, so you guys are kind of holding the middle of the story here. That might be an important piece. Brian?
So what scientists the oil fracking?
Well, let's go to the map. Here's the oil spill, right? Where are you guys? For site? Montague Island. So the question then is the oil going to get from here to here?
Well, it is
How do you know that? Which way do the currents go? It's got to come through the strait, right? You know that from background knowledge. Maybe. What information do you have that would allow you to determine that? What data do you have? You got the scale. What other data do you have in the room that can help you understand ocean currents in the sound? Go find out.
It's about heading towards Chile. Yes, so like right about here is like the priority because most of the oil heads there.
Julie uses grouping thoughtfully to challenge and support her students.
The kids are put based on thinking skills. So like when I set up the lesson, it was, guys, it's not about a research day, it's about a thinking day. I've tried to put kids that think holistically and kids that think in parts together so that there's a range of abilities within the group.
Crawl out of the water and hang on the rocks. Why do sea lions crawl out of the water and hang on the rocks? Are they sunbathing? Well, they are. They get warm, but why else are they doing it? Maybe to get air. Why else? Do you know? Go find out. Here.
Why would they rely on that?
Fishermen make around $100,000 a year. I mean, 100,000 every 2 months.
The other thing that comes out of this is the discussion of the class on what's the role of science.